Welcome to Dr. K. Vasuki channel. In this video, we are going to discuss about what is hypothesis, types of hypothesis, and uses of hypothesis in social work research. What is hypothesis? Hypothesis is an assumption that is made on the basis of some evidence. This is the initial point of any investigation that translates the research question into prediction. It includes components like variables, population, and the relation between the variables. A research hypothesis is a hypothesis that is used to test the relationship between two or more variables. What is hypothesis? Hypothesis is an assumption. Yes, of course it is assumption because we doesn't know whether it's correct or not because we doesn't have proper evidence. Okay, this is the initial point of any investigation. Whenever we have doubt, we go for more information for deeper understanding. That is the initial point for any research. Based on that only, we are going to translate the research question into prediction. So, we are predicting that whether it is true or not. It may true or may not be. So, we are predicting. It includes components like variables, population, and the relation between the variables. And variables has values and has to be tested and measured. Alright. So, a research hypothesis is a hypothesis that is used to test the relationship between two or more variables. A hypothesis can be defined as a tentative explanation of research problem, a possible outcome of a research, or an educated guess about the research outcome. In hypothesis means assuming something, that is a tentative one. So, we are giving a tentative explanation of the research problem. It is maybe a possible or other side of things. So, it is a guess about research outcome. Hoodie and Hat have defined it as a proposition which can be put to test to determine its validity. Yes, hypothesis is a proposition. That is assumption. That is idea we have proposed as a researcher. That has to be tested to determine its validity. According to Lundberg, a hypothesis is a tentative generalization, the validity of which remains to be tested. It is most elementary stage. The hypothesis may be any hunch, guess, imaginative idea, which becomes the basis for action or investigation. A researcher calls this assumption as hunch hypothesis, and they become the basis of an inquiry. In most studies, hypothesis will be based upon our own or someone else's observation. Hypothesis brings clarity, specificity, and focus to a research problem, but it is not essential for every study. So we are going to discuss about importance of hypothesis. Hypothesis, though an important part of research, it may not be required in all types of research. The research which are based on fact-finding, historical or descriptive research do not need hypothesis. Whenever possible, a hypothesis is recommended for all major studies to explain observed facts, conditions, or behavior and to serve as a guide in the research process. So, hypotheses facilitate the extension of knowledge in an area. Of course, they provide tentative explanation of facts and phenomena and can be tested and validated. Without test, we can't validate. It sensitizes the investigator to certain aspects of the situation which are relevant from the standpoint of the problem in hand. Hypothesis provides the researcher with rational statement consisting of elements expressed in a logical order of a relationship which seeks to describe or to explain condition or event that have yet not been confirmed by facts. These hypotheses enables the researcher to relate logically known fact to intelligent guesses about unknown conditions. It is a guide. It is guiding the researcher towards thinking process and to discover the reality. Hypothesis provides direction to the research. It defines what is relevant and what is irrelevant. The hypothesis tells clearly the researcher what he need to collect information and find out in his study. Thus, it prevents the review of irrelevant literature and provide a basis for selecting the sample and the research procedure to be used in the study. Hypothesis implies the statistical techniques needed in the analysis of data, and while studying the relationship between the variables, it has to be tested. It also helps to delimit a study in scope so that it doesn't become broad. Hypothesis provide the basis for reporting the conclusion of the study. It serves as a framework. It's clearly picturized for trying conclusion. In other words, we can say that it provides a outline for setting conclusion in meaningful way. So, hypothesis has a very important place in research, in any research, not only social work research, in any research, although it occupies a very small place in the body of a thesis. Here we are going to discuss about types of hypothesis. There are 6 types of hypothesis. One is simple hypothesis, a complex hypothesis, directional hypothesis, non-directional hypothesis, null hypothesis. Simple hypothesis. The word itself explains its meaning. Simple hypothesis. It shows a relationship between one dependent variable and a single independent variable, which means in simple hypothesis we are not going to study about more variables, only one independent variable. We are going to conduct test between one dependent variable and one independent variable. If you eat more vegetables, you will lose weight faster. Here, eating more vegetables is an independent variable, while losing weight is dependent variable, because more vegetables influence the weight losses. So, weight losses doesn't make any sense in vegetables. So, vegetables plays as an independent variable. Because of vegetables, we are losing weight. That's why we are telling losing the weight is the dependent variable. That is called simple hypothesis. And second one is complex hypothesis. It shows the relationship between two or more dependent variable and two or more independent variable. Okay. In complex hypothesis describes that in researcher they have to going to study about the relationship between two or more dependent variable and two or more independent variables. Eating more vegetables and fruits. Here, eating more vegetables and fruits. Fruits and vegetables are independent variables. It leads to weight loss. Not only weight loss, glowing skin reduces the risk of many diseases. These are the things called dependent variable. So, here we are going to study the relationship between two or more independent and dependent variable. And directional hypothesis. It shows how the researcher is intellectual and committed to a particular outcome. The relationship between the variables can also predict its nature. For example, children aged 4 years eating proper food over a 5 years period are having higher IQ level than children not having a proper meal. This shows the effect and direction of effect. Researchers have to be committed and intellectual towards a particular outcome. A non-directional hypothesis means it is used when there is no theory involved. It is a statement that a relationship exists between two variables without predicting the exact nature of the relationship. In directional hypothesis, we are having a reference, a theory. If you are eating more vegetables and fruits, if you are having proper food, it definitely leads to growth of IQ level of the children. It has proper evidence. But in non-directional hypothesis, it doesn't have any evidence. It doesn't give any direction. So we cannot predict exact nature among the variables. Then last one is null hypothesis. It provides the statement which is contrary to the hypothesis. It is a negative statement and there is no relationship between independent and dependent variable. The symbol is denoted by HO. While we test the relationship between dependent and independent variables, the result shows that it doesn't have any relationship. Automatically, it leads to null hypothesis. Symbol is denoted by HO. Then associative and causal hypothesis. Associative hypothesis occur when there is a change in one variable resulting in a change in the other variable. For example, we are deciding to study a relationship between rainfall and food production. If we are getting less rainfall, automatically it influences and it has effect on food production. That is called associative hypothesis. Causal hypothesis process a cause and effect interaction between two or more variables. In causal hypothesis, going to propose a cause. What are the reason behind it and what are the consequences because of the cause. These are the components we are going to study in the causal hypothesis. Function and uses of hypothesis. Hypothesis helps in making an observation and experiment possible. It becomes a start point for investigation and hypothesis helps in verifying the observation. It helps in directing the inquiries in the right direction. Hypothesis helps in making an observation and experiments possible. Hypothesis means tentative assumption, which means it doesn't have proper evidence. We are observing, we are listening something, we have many questions, we are putting as a questionnaire for the research and based on that we are setting variables. Variables has values and based on that we are going to measure it. We are going to experiment it. Okay, so hypothesis helps in making an observation and experiment possible. It becomes the start point for any investigation. Whenever we have doubt, we automatically as a human being, we are requiring many information regarding or to clarifying the doubt or getting in-depth knowledge. So here hypothesis plays a vital role. It is the basis for any research. Based on that only we are going to collect more inquiry. We are going to do inquiry to collect more information. Hypothesis helps in verifying the observation because every component, that is variable, has to be tested. And based on the test only, we are going to verify the validity, whether it has relationship between the variables or doesn't. Then it helps in directing the inquiries in the right direction. Yes, of course. Hypothesis really guides the researcher to collect proper information and it guides to researcher to avoid irrelevant information collection. So hypothesis prevents a researcher to avoid unnecessary collection of research and analyzation and so on. Thank you.